and just so that you can see what I'm typing. All right. So yes, tangency is important. The way you can check it is if you click and drag and let go. Now these two lines turn yellow, which means they're both selected. I can see here in existing relations, they have none. So if I click on tangent, it's a very slight change, just move this up, but it prevents like, without the tangency, if I control Z that, it prevents something like that from happening. And again, the next stage of this project is to, the reason we're looking at these in detail today is you will then take this bottle and make a half volume version and a double volume version, which I will talk about at the end of class today. So yes, tangencies are important. While we're on this model, actually I did not mean to save that. Control Z works in SolidWorks, just like anything else. This is nuanced, but it is important. So when I look at this, as I'm grading, there are things I'm looking for. One of them is, in general, try to keep the fillets towards the bottom of the tree. You can always see if you can like drag these up. If you can do that and nothing goes wrong, I would recommend that. Again, this is just a best practice thing. I'm trying to instill good habits into you all. These two sketches, one of them should be a master sketch. So technically you have this here as a bounding box. All of this detail would be better as a master sketch and then copied into this new sketch. Does that nuance make sense? Unfortunately, I would say the best way to go about correcting this is just make this your master sketch and create a new revolve where this is copied over. Unfortunately, that means you're probably going to have to re-select these fillets and stuff. But you can look and reference what you did previously. So like, yeah, unfortunately, we don't have time for me to get in and show you that. But does that distinction make sense to everybody? This level of detail, this is the master sketch. You copy it over. And again, it's all about just instilling good habits and good practice. I'm not necessarily looking for all this to be defined, although it would help you. Again, the way this project is structured to force you all to build a half volume and a double volume, it's going to quickly, the minute that you try and make your bottle like twice as big and all this stuff gets screwed up, it's going to be a strong encouragement to dimension that out. Yeah, any questions on that? If I just quickly look at your other, so that's my main feedback to you is you did like a very simple math. Technically you have a master sketch in here, but it's more of a bounding box. It doesn't have details. That's true for all of your models. And I hate to say it, I mean, really, this project is designed that the hard part is making the sketch, so that hard part is over, but you will have to, the model will blow up when you make this the master sketch. You might be able to actually like select all of this and Control C. Remember, everyone, you can like move this bar up to work at different parts in your tree. And so if I create a new sketch on this, on the front plane now, I might be able to hit Control V. You can move a sketch by selecting it and using Move Entities here. And drag this to like somewhere close. I don't know, this is kind of like a hack workaround to try and rescue this. I think it's all, you're gonna get errors though. If I delete all of this and select this and hit, not offset, sorry. If I select this and hit convert entities, yeah, it's gonna give you errors. I'm sorry, so what that means is you essentially you have the sketch, that's good, but you're gonna have to do the commands again to have a true master sketch. So that's my main feedback. But yes, good observation on the bottoms being too curved. And yes, please just watch that. Yeah, you have to take that into account. Okay, cool. I'm sorry, that's all I have time for. Again, I'm happy to take time after class. My plan now is to go backwards, since I think people at the end, we might have gone a bit quicker. So I'll do Anastasia next. So same question to you. Do you want me to just give you general feedback, or do you have a specific question that needed? Oh, yeah. Okay, so this was what came up when we were reviewing the drawings that Max had mentioned on here. So again, let's look at what you have. You have the bounding box, you have the master, this is good. So everyone, this is set up well. Your trees can honestly be this short, that's okay. You might have the picture, the master sketch, the revolve, and the fillet. It might be that simple, that's all right. What Max was saying, I believe, is let's say you determine that, I mean, you could combine both methods. So here is a line, we want it to be vertical. I kind of goofed that up when I drew it. So I select the line, I make it, set it to vertical, I set it for construction. I can now select the line and select like this arc, and I can say make this tangent. This is where it'd be good to take the calipers and measure the width of the bottle. But let's assume that your trace is correct. I can hold this line in place by dimensioning from the center line to this outer edge. You'll notice that the dimension line jumps like this. Because it's for construction, when it makes this jump, it's treating it as a center line. It really makes no difference, but for our purposes here, you want to just hover to the left to get that half width. And I believe what Max was saying, you have it defined here, but if you did not have this defined or this defined, you can take this point and drag it, provided. So dragging points is a good way to see what's defined and what's not. You can always hit Control-Z to undo whatever crimes you just created. But here, if I select both of these and set them to tangent, that should prevent what just happened from happening. And I believe what Max was saying is now that this is defined, you should be able to drag this. It's possible that something else is constraining this. This might be it. There you go. This is what Max was saying. Do you see how you can now drag this and visually get it to look how you want? So, I mean, that is part of SolidWorks, and that unfortunately takes just like a bit of practice of like setting up your sketch in such a way that you know what variables you want to play with, defining the other ones, and then playing with those variables by dragging them. Does that make sense? I'm recording this, yeah. It's not, but you can make an argument that there's like a way that designers use SolidWorks and a way that engineers use SolidWorks, and for sure there is a little bit of this like design push and pull in SolidWorks of like how it looks. So again, just to like reiterate, think about what it is, what variables you want to play with. A good rule of thumb is like Anastasia said, something you're unsure about how it looks, leave that open as something you can drag, but like you can define the overall width because you know what that is. So define the variables you know, leave the variables you don't know undefined, and drag. You can then play with them visually to see what they look like. But that's, again, where relationships like making these tangent becomes important. Cool. I'll just quickly glance at the other ones to see if there's any major concerns. In general, it looks like your setups are good. You have the key components. I'm not seeing any missing or like egregious non-tangent issues. Here's an issue where I would say I'd probably put this as a curve through here, not as a fillet, because I feel like that's a design feature. Same here. I'll just quickly take this opportunity to show the shell feature for everybody. So here she has what's a silicone wall. If I look at her sketches, again, sorry, here's a new thing too. Alt-M brings up a measuring tool if you have my hotkeys. I can click on these two lines to just find out what their distance is. So that's a gap of 0.06 inches. There's a tool called Shell, which exists right here in the middle. If I click on this, what the shell is asking me for is where the open face is going to be in the shell. So like, let's say this is a solid body. The bottle goes in here. This is the window that I want open. That's what I select. The reason I took that measurement is we want to know what the wall thickness is. In this case, we'll say 0.06. And it's really that simple. The face that you want open and the thickness of the wall, and click the check mark. It's not the most robust tool. And something looks funny, to be honest. So the way I would revolve this if I were you, so the way you could correct this is you could just do now a revolved cut and just judge this by eye. That's probably what I would do to fix this point going like it is here. So again, a shell tool, it just asks you for the open face to select, and you set the wall thickness, and it does it for you, essentially. There are sometimes there are things that cause it to fail, but like simple shapes like this should work. Okay, I'm sorry, unfortunately that's all I have time for. If you have questions after, I'm happy to help. We're going to move on to Juan next. Is it a quick question, Anastasia? Okay. Juan, any questions or just general feedback? On the glass bottle? Okay. Oh, because we talked about making it bigger? Yeah. Oh, and you had trouble, that's right. Okay, let's start there then. So yeah, sometimes fillets can be fussy. So for sure, I would have this as two separate fillets, not the same. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the second one out. Just for reiteration's sake, you all know how to edit a feature, right? What do you do? Right click on it, edit feature. Yeah. So here, that's what I did here. I edited the feature. I deleted one of the selections to remove the fillet off of it. I'm now selecting the fillet tool again. I'm selecting the edge. And now we're making it bigger. I'm going to assume because it was tied to the top one, that's what was limiting you. And the top one, let's look at it, at how big we can get this. It may have, you know what, they probably ended up hitting each other is maybe what happened. That will cause a fillet to fail. But honestly, just like going off gut, that looks more correct to me. I'll use this opportunity to talk about push-ups. So again, I would probably put the push-up, the most efficient way would be to put it in this command. So you could always put like an arc in here. Again, with a push-up, so I have an arc, I want this to be tangent. If it's not tangent, you might get a funny point in the middle. A good rule of thumb is push-ups are about 1/4 of an inch up, so just go anywhere from 0.2 to 0.25. And then because this is a revolve, we would want, technically this should be in the master sketch. I'm just showing you where you can put it in terms of like putting it into the revolve. This is where if you draw this in, again, you want this to be have a tangent relationship. I want this to be for construction line so that it doesn't affect my revolve. And now I can use my scissor tool to chop this out. And now this revolve should have a push up in the bottom. It is in there. Here's another thing I did. If I click on the front plane and click on this half donut, you can see a section view, and it shows that push up is in there. One major thing I just caught though, Juan, is that, again, you want your origin to be just below the neck. I will take off points for that, everybody. Again, you'll also run into, it will cause a headache for you when you're trying to build the cap. Get that. I did not start my timer. Story of my life. All right. Any other questions or comments? Same comment for you as I had for Alec. Technically, this is your master sketch. Does that make sense? The bounding box and the master sketch can be the same sketch. The bounding box, so the order of the tree should be reference, master sketch, and then revolve. The next one that I see that's correct, I will state that and look at it carefully. Okay, I'm going to move on. All right, next up, Nina. Nina, same question for you. Any specific, you want just like overall feedback, or do you have a specific question? Okay. So again, it is possible that your trees are going to be incredibly short if you don't have a lot of fillets, and that's okay. Actually, you know what? No, I take that back because you have to have caps. So the caps will be a secondary to revolve. For today, these short trees are okay, but you're going to have caps on here. So if we look at this, here's the so here's the picture, here's the master sketch. That's all correct. This looks good. Yep, that's placed fine. I mean, again, technically, I did say just below the cap, so you're not wrong. Best practice would be maybe to have it here. As you do the different sizes, you will, and again, that's where it'll become evident that where the origin is placed is important. To give you all a preview of like what we're looking for with the different sizes, you know what, never mind, I'm sorry. I'll save that for the end because that's important, and I don't want to cut into Nina's time. If you have like random sketches like this, try to avoid that. I'll probably take off very small points for that. So she has a master sketch here, and then unless, oh, you have you're right, I'm sorry. You have a different setting here, which is okay. There is a setting, I forget where it is, where the sketch is shown before the feature. Never mind, this sketch is fine then, because this sketch is what this is referencing, right? I need to look at what that setting is. So never mind, I take that back. This is correct, you did this right. I apologize. Let me open one of my files and see if we can just compare this to that, or let's see, we'll go Max next. I'll just preemptively open one of his files to show this difference. So do you see how this one has an arrow here and a drop down, and the sketch is within the feature? Nina has her setting that that's not the case. That is totally preferential. I know some people that prefer to work this way. I tend to work the other way because that's the default. To each their own. If this is confusing for you or this is working for you, Nina, I can figure out where to turn this on or off. But yes, anyway, this looks good. Let's look at the next one real quick. Strong one. Yeah, you probably want a little bit more definition than what you have, again, when it comes to changing the size. But it looks like these relationships are good, having these tangencies in here. So like something like this, like here's another relationship. You could select both of these and click equal, and this would keep them the same size. You might want to like define, like if I pull on this, I'll just see what happens. Yeah, sometimes it's helpful when you have a bump like this to put a construction line on the inside. So set that for construction and set this to be coincident to keep that a perfect half circle so it doesn't get too bulbous or whatnot. But this is the threading, so it doesn't matter. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, and you don't need to worry about threading. So honestly, you probably could ignore these bumps if you wanted. We just leave them out altogether. All right, cool. Any other questions? Yeah, I see here. Let's look at your trace of the photo. This looks good. It doesn't look too wide. It looks wide in the printout, but if this is what the printout was, it looks like you were true to the photo. So that's all you need to do. Okay, moving on. Max, which is the one you had issues with? So you have a specific question? You just want me to look at this one? A solution cannot be determined for this sketch. Okay. So anytime, okay, this is a good example. Anytime you see something in red, chances are it means it's unsolvable. So there is conflicting information. You have this sketch says, hey, I have someone telling me to do A, and I have someone telling me to do B, and I don't know which one to do. So anytime you have something red, a good rule of thumb is to just delete it and see what happens. I'm assuming it's because you have a rectangle in this sketch. You don't. I don't know what was overdefined there, I'll be honest. Yeah. So just so, I don't know, it was overdefined. You had something up there that wasn't necessary. This is good. Well, here you have a spline, so maybe phi on you. But the push-up is good the way you have this in here. That's fine. I won't take off points for splines. I would just prefer you hold off until I can teach them to you all. At a glance, it looks good though. I don't know. Did I solve your problem? Just delete that red dimension. Yes, that's what I'm hoping to get to today. But yeah, yes. The caps. Good question. The cap should be a separate revolve. The cap should be part of the master sketch, but you should have two revolve commands: one for the body, one for the cap. Really, Wednesday's class is for caps, but I was hoping to at least start to get to it today to, again, for the sake of getting out early on Wednesday. So again, this is a good example of like reference, master sketch. This is in the right order. You have this correct. Again, could maybe be a bit more defined, and your origins at the bottom. Again, I'll take off points for that. The origin should be here. And then you probably want to define the height of the cap from the origin. Does that make sense? Again, I'll try and look for an option for that. And I'll just look at one last bottle of yours. Here you go. Perfect. Well done. Okay, sorry, not perfect. 80% perfect. You have this defined. This is good. So I want everyone to look at how this is set up at the top. It's all correct with the exception that I would just have this origin located here. Wait, so you measured, because probably you have did you take the cap off the bottle? Okay, I'm curious now. So you have this as 1.63 inches. This is a good example of what I want to see in all of your master sketch, is having this bounding box, having the height of the bottle dimensioned from, like, the origin being at the neck finish, and then from the neck finish to the top of the cap being dimensioned to kind of fix that bounding box. Is that absolutely clear to everybody? I see faces looking down. Does it have to have this box? I would say it's good. Yeah, you don't. I would like a bounding box. It will, trust me, it will make your life easier. I would avoid trimming it. Yeah, you're right. I did teach you how to trim it, and I say you could do that. I'm going back on that now. I'm saying you should have a bounding box. It will make your life easier. If you want to keep it as a separate sketch, you can. If you want to put it in your master, that's fine. Yeah. Yes, when you copy it, you want to trim it, absolutely, in the revolve. So again, if we look at what Max did here, here it's trimmed, which is good. But the bounding box will be helpful. Again, we talked about how bottles are typically like aligned on the outside. That's where the bounding box will help you. And again, the bounding box will make your life easier when you start to play with double size, half size. Trust me. Cool? Okay. Moving on. Next up, we'll go Matthew. Do you have a specific question, or do you want just general feedback on everything? Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that. So let me start getting this open. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at this first. So just quick look at like master sketch to photo, right? Remembering the eyeball, turning things on and off. Yeah, it looks good. I would probably, to me, this is a design feature. I'd probably do this as an arc, somewhat, what's the word? I won't take off points though for how you did this. That's just my advice. Generally good approach. Okay, so let's look at this cut here. Is that what this sketch is? All right. So if you have a feature like this that's on both sides, here's something a little bit different that I would then recommend. So firstly, this revolve. Any guesses what I'm about to? I guess I haven't taught you guys this yet. I'm sorry. So you could do this. Anytime that you have a feature that's mirrored on both sides, it would make sense to build a bottle in a half. I think I've spoken to it. I haven't shown it yet though. So here's a good opportunity to show this. So in this instance, I would set this revolve to be only 180 degrees, not a full 360. You'll also notice that I changed this setting to be mid-plane. So the default is a blind 360 rotation. Just the way that you have your sketch for the cut set up, I'm going to set it to mid-plane here so that it revolves starting from the middle. That's what the mid-plane setting means. And now when I get to this sketch here, I only have to cut one side. It's giving me an error because it's lost this here, so I'm just going to delete this out. But the simplest way to make this cut from what I taught you all is to just close this, to make it a closed shape. And now that blue shows up in here, and now I should be able to do extruded cut. And again, here's where you want to play with these settings. Once again, you can do mid-plane, and you can just drag this so it hits everything, or you can also change the setting to through all both, and click that check mark, and now you have this curve cut through here. Does that make sense? Extrude cut. It's just it's a feature command. So I'll do this again. I'll show you what you had. Finish it. Sure. Here's the timer. I would do that with. It's an extrude, but there is a little more nuance to it. Yeah, I'll take the time to show you. I think it's worth it. So again, real quick, this is what you had. I completed the shape, and then I went to features, and I went to extrude cut. I'm going to show you now how to do it without completing the shape. It's a little bit, it's the same, but you want to make sure that line goes beyond the object. So, I mean, you may as well complete the shape, but you can do something like this to make sure it goes beyond the object. You can go to extruded cut. I'm assuming what you had was this like thin feature checks. Once again, here, if you click on the through all both setting, it will accept a flat line as like a slice cut. So again, through all both is kind of the key here. I will answer your question in a minute, Max. The way to finish this is to mirror it. So again, this is a new command. Again, this is kind of getting into Wednesday's lecture, but we're hoping to get ahead of this. So mirror, it's located here in the middle. You select it. It asks you, hey, what do you want to mirror about? Like, where are you mirroring this? More often than not, if you have this cut, you can literally just select the face. Best practice, though, would be to select that midplane. The default is to mirror a feature, but it's always better to mirror a body. A feature would be like a cut command or like a fillet. But obviously, you've done multiple commands to this. You've revolved it, you've added fillets, you've done a cut, so you want to mirror the whole body. So you want to select bodies to mirror here, and then just simply click on this, and you can go ahead and click the checkbox. The default is to merge it, and that's good. That's what you want. And so now you have that cut on both sides. Obviously, though, you would first want to add those ridges on there. You could do that by extruding the bumps on it. I'll get it started for you, but actually, the more I think about this, it's a little bit more complex than it might seem. You know what? I'm sorry, I don't want to get into it. There's a lot to it. You have to essentially create a plane or a face that's perpendicular to this, draw a sketch on there of the bumps, and extrude those bumps up. It's a little bit trickier, though, because of this curvature through here. So we're going to save that for Wednesday and get to it then. Sorry, Max, but good question. Yeah, cool. You can create planes. It's insert reference geometry plane. I will make a note of this, and I will show you guys how to do this in depth on Wednesday. Cool? Okay. Let me just quickly look at your other models, and then we'll move on. I think you have this all set up correct. Okay. I will take off major points for this. Make sure your bottle is on the origin. That's absolutely critical. Can everyone look up, because I don't want to take off points for this, but I had a feeling that was the case on the other one. You always want, the origin is the anchor point. It is absolutely critical that it is all referenced to that point. To solve this for you, you've already done some of the hard work. You can select this. Again, go to Move Entities. Select something just below. Actually, the best practice would be to add a line here for construction, like set it for construction. Have it end like about there. And then again, select everything, move entities, select this point, drag it and click on the origin. But it may require, I believe it's going to require a second action to like drag it away to make it coincident. So this is black. Do you see that? And again, this is what I'm hoping to see, is then that this is also then dimension the height there. Okay. So please get that. And last but not least, is there one more here? Snapple, is that the one we didn't look at? Yeah, same thing. Is that clear? Does that make sense? I'm assuming this might have been a rushed thing or maybe just an oversight. That's okay, I shouldn't make assumptions. You don't need to explain yourself. Just please get that, okay? All right, moving on for the sake of time. Next up, we'll go Belinda. Do you have any questions, Belinda? Oh, on there? We'll get to that Wednesday. So, again, I was hoping to have some time at the end of this, but it's not looking like it. Let me look at all of this, and then I'll try and answer that in the remaining minute of your time. So, okay, just quick overview on everything. You got the sketch in there, looks good. Master sketch, are you on the origin? You are. Again, here's an instance. This is the same thing that Alec and Juan did, where you have the bounding box as your master, when really this amount of detail should be in your master. Does that make sense? So for you, you're also going to have to redo these fillets. The good news is, I feel like you shouldn't need these many fillets. Like a lot of these should be very similar in what the radius is. And in fact, from an efficiency standpoint, let's see this. You have this set at 0.1. Let's see this one. Okay, so you should be selecting multiple edges with your fillets. Does that make sense? Anything that's 0.1, just select that edge. The only time you'd want to break it up with the same measurements is if the fillet is like hitting itself and causing you problems. But so like if I take a glance here of the approach you took with this fillet up here, you could go ahead and select like this edge. I don't know, this is a design judgment, but probably all of these edges, or like I accidentally clicked this face, but like you could do that too, it would save you time. Does it make sense what I want the three of you to do? Like essentially you have to delete this revolve command. This becomes your master sketch, and then you have to copy it into a new revolve. So I'll show you now really quickly. Unfortunately, again, it means all the fillets disappear. I just broke your Jenga tower. So now from the front view, I create a new sketch. I select on this, which is now the master, and hit convert entities, and this is what I revolve from. So again, then features, revolve, reselect this. But then unfortunately, you have to reselect your fillets. But again, Belinda, my advice to you is to not have to do it different for every one. This is set to 0.1. You can then go ahead and just start selecting these faces. And this should speed up your time a little bit. Does that make sense? Okay. Let me look at the other ones really quickly and then try and show you how to do that. Same comment here on the master sketch. Let's see where your origin is. This origin looks to me like it's in the right place. Cool. Yeah, same comment. Okay, let me try and answer your question really fast. So from a front view, and again, I'd like everyone to pay attention because this is essentially how there was a question about how to emboss, deboss things. This is essentially how you do it for all of them. This is a good one to show you with because it's very simple. If we all remember Belinda's bottle, it had a bit of a detent in it that looked like this slot shape. Actually, I'm glossing over things. There is a slot drawing tool. The term we've been using in design show and tell is racetrack. The SOLIDWORKS term is slot. What it does is it creates a construction line for you and you drag to make the slot the size you want. Once you have it drawn though, you can always like drag. So for example, to get it to be the size you want. So for example, I would get it centered on here, again using the origin. Best practice would be that this would be in the master sketch. So here's how you do a simple deboss. So let's say this is the shape you want, and obviously we want to cut because this is going inside. We're going to go ahead and click extrude cut. Obviously it's coming from the center here. This is where you want to start to play with some of these settings. So here you would go with offset. So we don't want the cut coming from the center. We want it actually coming from outside of the bottle. If this is the front here, you can always click on this to like change where the offset is, whether it's positive or negative. That's the general SOLIDWORKS universal symbol. Same thing here where you change the direction of the cut, right? We want it to go towards the bottle. But here you want one of the settings, which is offset from surface. So here it's asking you, what's highlighted in blue is, hey, which surface do you want it to be offset from? And you'll notice the default is that it's 0.1 offset. Again, here you can check this box to hit reverse, and that's how you can like cut it offset from that surface. That was a lot of information I just flew through. It is going to be recorded, but again, it's a simple extrude cut using all these surfaces, or all of these settings. So once again, we start by saying where we want the cut to start from, which is in this case, 2 inches away from the model. This is somewhat of an arbitrary number. We play with this to get the direction of where we want it. We then change the setting from blind to offset from surface. It's asking us which surface we want. We select it. And again, this is one of the things that SOLIDWORKS is confusing about. It really should have this symbol again here. I don't know why they choose to do it as a checkbox in this instance. But again, here we go ahead and click check, and now you have that cut in, and you can fill it in. Cool? If you were doing this with the logo, it would be very similar. You would just have the logo set. Yeah, Max? That is how it is now. If you wanted it straight and you didn't want to follow the curvature, you would change this instead of from offset from surface to be blind. And you could then just set a dummy amount. And now that's a flat face on the inside there, which you can see with this line. Okay, unfortunately, that's all I have time for here. Again, I'm going over. The struggle is real. Okay, Maxwell next. Max, any specific questions or just general feedback? The ridges, yes, we'll go over it. I was hoping, we'll see. We may have like a speed intro to ridges at the end of class, but if we have time. You know what, I'll take this opportunity if I have time to do it. I'll give you general feedback first. So looking at the master sketch, perfect. You guys see this? This is good. You want this here, dimension from the origin. Quick check on tangencies. So if I select both of these, you should probably set this to tangent. Anytime you have an arc coming off of something, select both of them, click tangent. It'll keep your models nice and clean. Again, it's about that Jenga tower and making sure it works. Nice work planning for this push-up before I introduced it. But this is what that might look like for everybody. Yes, in the master. Again, I will accept in the master sketch. I will accept if you want for your push-up to just accept that it's an arc at a height of 0.2 in the center, 0.2 inches. I will accept that. But I will be looking for push-ups when I grade in the bottom of the model. Looks good. This should probably be a bigger fillet. I think we discussed that. Yeah, Max. I would also do the width, but so here's the confusing thing. The neck finish, we will see the transfer ring on some of your models. For others, the cap will cover the rest of the neck finish. So I honestly actually don't care about the neck finish. It's more the cap that I care about. So I would bind the cap's overall width. And you care about the cap too, because when you change the volume of the bottles, you don't want your cap to jump and blow up and fall in the Jenga analogy. Max, I think you're in good shape, at least from the first one I saw. If the other ones are like that, oh, no, take it back. You wanted to find this here. That first one I looked at was on the right track. Just, I think the only thing missing there was that tangency. I'm defining the overall height here because, and again, this is going to be useful when we start to play with the volume and change the volume. Okay. Let me look at this and I'll start to introduce this. Oops, wrong one. Okay, so I'll take a bit of time here to just introduce how I want the caps to be. So again, please everyone pay attention. I was hoping to do this as like a we work together, but given the time constraints, we'll do that on Wednesday. We'll do this as a work together, but this is a preview just so I want you to know what's coming up. So in the master, I would have the cap in here. So if I look, I hit Alt-V to hopefully show the image. It's hidden, so I right-click on it to see the eyeball. I yell at Max for the photo not aligning. I'll exit out of the sketch. Again, you can always rearrange these by dragging them. Gotcha, that's all right. So I can see this now, yes, I'm gonna double click on the sketch to move it, drag this down to kind of realign where it roughly is. Check to get that. Exit out of this, realign this, so now I have the image above the sketch, right click edit, and now I can start to kind of draw this cap in here. Again, this is where it's confusing. Okay, I aligned this like a goober, but we're just gonna get it close. I mean, roughly we know what the cap looks like, right? It's at an angle. It probably goes a little bit above. And we get that in here. So that's in our master sketch. So you revolve the main body of the bottle. Then as a separate command, I'm going to create a new sketch on the front plane. I'm now going to select these. I'm holding down Control to select all those continuously, and I'm going to hit Convert Entities. If I hit Alt-V, it hides all my sketches so I can see what the cap looks like. Just finish that line. So now it's a closed shape. I can now go to features and hit revolve. It's a new sketch and a new feature. I want the caps to be a secondary revolve. And here's the reason why. When you create this new revolve, you'll notice there's a checkbox here that says merge result. You want to uncheck that because it's a separate body. The way SOLIDWORKS works is it'll either combine it and make it one overall body, in which case all of this information on the inside is going to be lost, quote unquote lost essentially. It makes it just like, it treats it as if it's like one piece of clay. If you do it this way, it's like two separate pieces of clay. So again, you want to uncheck that merge result and go ahead and check this. So now we have a cap on here. I neglected to put a fillet. What we're going to get to on Wednesday, and what I'm showing now, is maybe from this top plane, I'm going to create a new sketch. I won't be picky on the grooves. As long as you get the general gist of it, I won't be too picky on it. This can be a total judgment by eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center. I'm going to just get a reference line here. It's kind of dark. I apologize. We'll go to the top so you can see it a bit better. And I'm going to just sketch a V on here. And we're basically just going to cut this. We're going to cut this, do this as an extrude cut to get that wedge in here. So some things I can do, I can select this and tell this to be in the midpoint to get that to be even. Another thing I can do is I can select these three lines, and it gives me a symmetric option. That happens when you have a center for construction line. That option becomes available, but not necessary because I made it to the center of this line back here. So we're going to go ahead and do this as an extrude cut. And again, you want to get the right angle. This is where here in the feature scope, you want to select it so it's just the cap. So again, we have two pieces of clay. We want it to be just through the cap here. And I'm going to go ahead and click the checkbox. And now we have a cut through the cap. Does everyone see that? This is where you want to play with the adjustment a little bit before you move on. So maybe it needs to be a bit wider to open that up a bit. And here, to make our lives easier, this is definitely an instance where like putting the curve in this groove will make your life just a little bit easier. But it is possible to go ahead and hit fillet and hit these edges. Oh yeah, thanks. Okay, so I'm building this differently than it actually is. I'm going to continue down this path just for now, though. Okay, fine, here, I'll diverge. For the sake of accuracy. Okay, so let's say you notice that you were making assumptions and you want to change that. So I'm going to draw a straight line. It's not quite a groove. So I can like go ahead and trim this, right, to kind of correct. This is where now this symmetric command is important. I'll show you guys another tool if that symmetric command was confusing. You can always select a line, two lines. If one is a construction line, there is a mirror entities in Sketchland. If I click this, it will mirror it about the construction line. And now these will have that symmetric relationship. So if I drag this, it will mirror it. So, okay, so now we're making this cut a little bit bigger. To make our lives easier, you can fill it in the sketch or you can fill it outside of the sketch, but we're going to fill it before I'm sure you all know where this is going. Eventually, we're going to pattern this. Again, 0.04 is kind of just like a good rule of thumb to go to. I don't know if I can do this all in the same fillet. I can. That's good. Makes my life easier. So I have that groove put in there. So now, this is a new command I'm showing you all, but again, we'll work on it together on Wednesday. Up here where it says linear pattern, any of these where there's a drop down, it opens up more options. So we want a circular pattern. So here, again, it defaults to features. It says, hey, what features do you want to pattern? I prefer to select this from the tree, which you can drop down here. Obviously, this feature command is blocking our tree. So here I'm going to select the cut command and the fillet command. And you can see that they both end up in here. This is asking you the direction. That's a very confusing term. This is asking you for the center axis of rotation. And there's two ways to do this. If all of you set up your master sketch correctly, it's simply just selecting this line, which is the easiest way to do it. Now, you may not always have that master sketch ready to go, or you may be revolving about something weird. This is where it's helpful to go to View, Hide Show, and Temporary Axes. And you'll see if I hide my sketch, oh no, that's not gonna work. If I hide the master sketch and the image sketch, you'll see it gives me this dotted line. Temporary axes is anywhere that there's a revolved or a circular object, it'll give you this dashed line. This is also an acceptable thing to select for this. And now here it's just a simple matter of setting the number of ridges. Again, I'm not gonna be critical when I grade this, I'm just gonna, it can totally be judged by gut. Hit that checkbox, and now we have a cap. And this is what would work for you, Belinda, on the bottom too. Yeah, that applause is for SolidWorks, not for me. The program is powerful and can do fun things with that. Any questions on that? Okay, it is recorded now on YouTube, or will be on YouTube, but we'll go through that together on Wednesday. That was the one thing I wanted to get to today at the end. There was something else. I haven't forgotten about you, Hannah. Any other questions, Max, or thoughts? Okay. This is true for everybody. Oh, yes, exactly. Yes. Yes, you can pattern features. It is more robust to pattern a body than it is a feature. Was that a hand? That was stretching. Okay. Hannah, let's look at yours with the remaining 5 minutes, but I will also introduce the final aspects. Okay, that's fine. As long as the feedback is making sense. Okay. Yeah, everybody, you're not getting graded on these today. This is me to help you. You're getting graded on this a week from now, so this is a good way that hopefully everyone learns from everyone's mistakes. And okay, perfect. So you had one question here about getting this revolve to work. The way that I would set this up, yeah, okay, phi on you. Okay, okay, good. As long as you fix it. This is how I would do this, just like that. Something like that. If you want, you can get the calipers and measure. That's probably not necessary. Again, when in doubt, it's probably a millimeter. So 0.04 is probably what this is. The reason for that is anything smaller than a millimeter is like probably not easy to mold. So hopefully all this feedback made sense. I would say like throw a fillet on here. I guess given the fact that you fixed this now, my feedback on these aren't necessarily pertinent anymore. It's all the same stuff. Make this tangent in here, like this. These two should be tangent to each other, or if not, throw a fillet on it. Okay. Are you good then? Do you have any other specific questions? Okay. With the remaining 3 minutes, I'm going to open up my sriracha bottle and show you all what a finished model looks like and what some of these things that we're getting to are. I can throw my sriracha bottle on the server so you guys can look at it. We will talk about that pattern shape, but another way to do it is with mirrors. So here's an instance where I just extruded these grooves. I built it in a quarter, I mirrored it, and I mirrored it. It's a little bit more convoluted to do it this way. It's a little quicker to do it the other way. The answer to that question is, this was built for last year's class when I didn't make it a requirement that they should be revolved bottles. And I was preemptively planning for a bottle like this to teach to build in quarters. So it's really not a good reason. I will teach you guys to do what I just showed you. We'll do it again together on Wednesday. So here you can see the two separate revolve commands, one for the cap, one for the body. Again, ignore the fact that I did this as a half. But again, please everyone pay attention. This is probably one of the most important things today. I'm leaving it for the very end. So it is important that you build a half size and a full size, right? This is part of the component for this project. The way that you check this, again, provided that you have my hotkeys installed, it's Alt-L together, brings up mass properties. If you don't have my hotkeys, it's under Tools, and I believe it's in here somewhere in Tools. I'm just evaluate mass properties. Now here's what's important. Again, I kind of introduced a major component of solvers today as I glazed over it, which was when I revolved the cap for Max's bottle, it was a separate body. So again, think of it as a piece of clay is the first revolution. When you revolve the new cap, it's a separate piece of clay. You have two bodies in one file. So here, when I get the volume, you want to actually select the bottle and not the cap, right? Because all we care about is the volume of the bottle. So when you look at this, this is 3.1 cubic inches. Again, we can get into this all together on Wednesday. But now just be aware that I need, when I grade this, this is how I'm going to grade it for you all. I'm going to look at the volume. So again, I'm going to hit Alt-L. I'm going to select the, let's agree that it's the bottle, not the cap. So please don't make that confusion. I'm going to select just the bottle. I'm going to see what this is. If it's 31, I'm looking for a bottle that's going to be 62 and a bottle that's 15 and a half. Does that make sense? So, okay, when you have your bottle in here, when you have it built, hit Alt-L, and then just left-click on the bottle so it's highlighted blue. Again, this will be on YouTube. I realize class is technically over now, but please entertain me so that we can just get this important stuff. So again, it's Alt-L, select the blue. This is what I'm looking at, volume. Yes, that is a good question. It is stipulated here that you have to be plus or minus, I thought I had it stipulated here. It's up here, 0.05 cubic inches. I'm being very picky on this. Again, the reason for that is inevitably you're gonna have to continually tweak that master sketch. So you're gonna have to make those adjustments in order to get that to work. I'm not going to lie to you all, you have a hefty amount of work to do still for next Monday. In theory, again, if you have this all set up right, this will make your life easier here. Changing this won't be too hard. You cannot know. This is how you will check your work and how I will check your work. So the way that this works then is you go into your master sketch here. And so, okay, so it's a constant adjustment. And this is designed in such a way to make sure your master sketch is robust. So I'm going to go in here. This is what you're probably going to have to do. Change this height to 3. And again, this is why you want your cap above. You don't want this to blow up. Exit out of this. And now same thing, Alt-L, check this. You can see I'm too low. So I need to go back into my master sketch and edit it. It's a back and forth. This is when you work on structural packaging, this is a big part of it. And this is why the project is designed this way. So again, you would go back in here and you can edit whatever you want in the master sketch. You can change the overall width. So here, like if I went too little, it doesn't just have to be height. It's totally up to you. In general, you would probably go bigger and wider for the double size and shorter for the smaller size. Here's 17. So here, like the quickest way to reduce volume is changing the overall width or gain volume. So if I just change this from if I change this to like 1 1/4, and again, this is where all the dimensioning does become important. So my advice to all of you is to, between now and Wednesday, really nail your master sketch. And now that you're aware you're going to have to change this, play with it. Just try saving a copy, change the dimensions, and see if make sure it doesn't blow up. I would argue the hard work is done. You have the master sketch set up. Now you just need to dimension it in such a way that you're aware that the base is going to have to grow both in height and length. Once you have that figured out, it's not hard to just change and check. It shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. You're turning in 9 files. The harder part, the time sink will be in dimensioning it properly. The quick time will be in changing the size. Essentially, once you have the half bottle, the double bottle shouldn't be hard, or vice versa. Unfortunately, no, there's not. There is a scale tool in here, but don't use that for this. This is I'm teaching you best practice. It might feel convoluted and like a pain in the ass, but it's all about nailing that volume. Yeah, Max. There is, but it's not recommended. You don't want to have there's not a good way to do it. Let me answer it that way. But again, by setting it up, you have the master file, you just save a copy of that file and edit it. You're not building the new bottle 3 times. You're building one very robust bottle and then getting 2 derivatives from that one. Hopefully that makes sense. Oh, yes, there is a way to do that, but it's a long answer. If you want to stay after, I'll show you. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, I hate to say it, this is looking like Wednesday is going to be an empty class. I will try to plan it in such a way that the remaining hour of class will be optional, okay? Okay. Okay. I'm going to focus on like volumes and caps on Wednesday. That will be the main focus because that's absolutely critical to this project. Like in terms of like embossing labels, if we get to that later, that's going to be lower in our priority list. Okay. Okay, you're all free to go. Sorry for going over. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to stay and help.